My sister banned me from the family table at her wedding until the venue director walked over. A Revenge Chronicles story, LGBTQ, plus romantic slow burn. Clapperboard opening hook. My sister Neha told me 3 days before her wedding that I would not be sitting at the family table. She said it on the phone, in the specific tone she used when she had made a decision and was informing rather than discussing. She said, "I've arranged a table for you near the back. It's still a good table. I just think it's better for everyone if the family table is uncomplicated." And I understood exactly what uncomplicated meant. I said, "Okay, Neha." I said it because I had learned, over 31 years of being her brother, that the arguments that matter are not the ones you have 3 days before the wedding. I went to the wedding. I sat at the table near the back. I smiled at the relatives who came to find me. I drank the good champagne and I ate the food that was, I will say, excellent. And then, at 7:43 in the evening, the venue director walked across the room toward the family table. And he saw me. And everything that happened next was not something either of us had planned. Part 1. NEHA and the Uncomplicated Table. My name is Rohan Sharma, and I want to tell you about my sister with the fairness she deserves, because fairness is the foundation of any honest account. Neha was 34 and was marrying a man named Vikram who was steady and kind, and who genuinely loved her in the way that you can tell from the outside when you are paying attention. The wedding was at a venue in Gurgaon, a converted heritage property that had been beautifully renovated, the kind of place that required serious planning and serious budget, and that communicated exactly what the family wanted communicated about the occasion. 340 guests, 3 days of events. The full production of a large North Indian wedding, executed with the precision of a family that cared about these things. Neha was not a cruel person. I want to say this clearly because the story is not about cruelty. She was a person who had organized her life around a specific set of priorities and who managed, with some difficulty, the parts of her life that did not fit those priorities. I was one of those parts. I was 31 years old, the younger sibling, and I had been the part that didn't fit for long enough that I had made my peace with most of it. The family gatherings where certain conversations were avoided. The introductions at events that were handled with a specific careful vagueness. The particular labor of being in a family that loved you and also managed you. The labor of occupying a space that was technically present but practically separate. The uncomplicated table was the wedding version of this arrangement. A good table, near the back, where I would be present and visible and not disruptive to the specific picture my sister wanted the family table to communicate. I had said okay. Not because I agreed, because I had chosen, in the weeks before the wedding, not to make the wedding about this. The wedding was Neha's. Whatever was complicated between us was real and would still be real after the wedding. The 3 days of events were not the right time for it. I had arrived at the venue. I had found my table. I had been genuinely okay. Until 7:43. Part 2. The venue director. The venue director's name was Arjun Nair. I did not know this at 7:43. At 7:43, he was a man crossing the room in a dark suit with the specific movement of someone who knew this space the way you know a space you run, purposeful, aware of everything, moving between obligations with the ease of long practice. He was heading, clearly, toward the family table, the kind of purposeful approach that a venue director makes when there is something that needs attention or acknowledgement at the most important table in the room. He reached the family table. He spoke to my parents. He spoke to my father's brother. He was warm and professional, and whatever he was attending to was attended to smoothly. And then he turned to leave. And his line of sight, in turning, went directly to the table near the back. To me. I will tell you what I saw from the back table. A man who stopped mid-turn, who registered something, whose expression did the specific thing of processing unexpected information and not entirely concealing the processing, who stood for a moment with the particular stillness of someone who has encountered something they did not expect in a room they thought they knew. And then he walked across the room toward me. I did not know him. I had never seen him before. I had no idea why the venue director of a wedding I was attending, as a back table guest, was walking in my direction with that expression. He reached my table, he looked at me, and he said, "Rohan Sharma." "Yes," I said. He sat down in the empty chair across from me, not with the formal posture of a venue director attending to a guest, with the specific quality of someone who has just understood something and needs a moment to be a person rather than a professional. "We went to university together," he said. I looked at him. "Arjun," he said. "Arjun Nair. You sat in front of me in Professor Mehta's economics lecture for 2 years, and you lent me your notes every single time I forgot mine." I looked at him. 8 years. 8 years and a dark suit, and a venue director's professional manner, and the specific way that people change and remain entirely themselves. "Arjun," I said. "Yes," he said. "You run this place," I said. "I do," he said. "My sister got married here tonight," I said. "I know," he said. "I've been managing her wedding for 4 months." He paused. "I didn't know you were her brother. Your last names are the same, but I didn't," he stopped. "She didn't mention me," I said. He was quiet for a moment. "She did not," he said carefully. I looked at my champagne glass. "I'm at the back table," I said. "I noticed," he said. "The family table is uncomplicated," I said. He looked at me with the specific expression of someone who is understanding several things at once. "How long have you been here?" I said. "Managing this venue," he said. 2 years. "In Gurgaon," I said. "Yes," he said. "I live in Delhi," I said. 15 minutes away." He looked at me. 8 years. "You lent me your notes every single time," he said. "I never thanked you properly." "You bought me coffee," I said. "Several times." "That's not the same," he said. "It was good coffee," I said. He almost smiled, the smile that I had not seen in 8 years, and that was entirely as I remembered it. "Rohan," he said. "Yes," I said. "Why are you sitting at the back table?" he said. I looked at him. "Because my sister wanted the family table uncomplicated," I said. He received this. I watched him receive it, all of it, not just the logistics of the seating arrangement. "I see," he said. "It's fine," I said. "Is it?" he said. I looked at my champagne. "Tonight it's fine," I said. "There are larger conversations that are not tonight's." He was quiet for a moment. "Can I sit here?" he said. "For a few minutes, while things are stable on the floor?" "You run the venue," I said. "You can sit anywhere you like." "I'm asking," he said, "not as the venue director." I looked at him. "Yes," I said. "Sit down." Part 3, the 8 years. He sat across from me for 20 minutes before the venue required him again. Those 20 minutes were the 20 minutes of 2 people who have been separated by time and circumstance catching up on the shape of things. Not the full version, not yet, but the outline. He had left Delhi after university, had worked at a hotel group in Bangalore, then in Pune, had done the specific accumulation of hospitality experience that builds expertise, events, operations, client management, the complete picture of how a venue runs. Had come back to the Delhi area 2 years ago when the opportunity for the venue directorship had materialized. Had been building something here, the reputation of the property, the quality of the events, the relationships with the vendors and the clients. I had stayed in Delhi, had gone into brand communications after university, the work I had been building for 8 years, the client work and the strategy and the writing that was the professional expression of the way I thought about things. Had built a reputation for the specific work of narrative, helping companies and organizations tell true stories about themselves. Had, in the 8 years, become someone who was good at understanding what the real story was and how to tell it. We talked about work. We talked about the city and what had changed and what hadn't. We talked in the quick way of people who had known each other in a context that was real and who were finding, 8 years later, that the connection had maintained itself without maintenance. And then a waiter had come to find him, something on the floor that required his attention, and he had stood and said, "I'll come back." I had looked up at him. "You don't have to," I said. "I know," he said. "I'm going to anyway." He went back to the venue floor. I watched him move through the room, the ease of it, the specific quality of someone in their domain. He spoke to a server, made a small adjustment to something near the main table, checked in briefly with my parents with the professional warmth that was his job. And then he glanced back toward my table. I looked away before our eyes met. But I had felt it. I had felt the glance from across the room, and I had looked away, and I had understood, sitting at my back table in my sister's wedding, that the 8 years had not changed everything. Part 4, the night. He came back twice more before the evening ended. The second time was during the dinner service. He pulled the chair across from me and sat for 15 minutes while the main courses were being cleared and the dessert service was being set up. We talked about the venue, about the wedding, about the specific work of running an event at this scale. He was engaged in the subject in the way of someone for whom the work was genuinely interesting rather than just professional. He talked about what it took to make a wedding feel like what it was supposed to feel like, the specific orchestration of the emotions of 340 people in one space on one important night. I had said, "You're describing narrative management." He had looked at me. "That's exactly what it is," he said. "It's what I do," I said. "For brands, you do it for events." "Same thing," he said. "Same instinct," I said. He had smiled, not the professional smile. The third time was near the end of the evening. The dancing had been going for an hour. The room was warm and loud with the specific energy of a wedding at its full height. He had come back with 2 glasses of water because the champagne had been sufficient for the evening, and because he had noticed, from wherever on the floor he had been, that I had stopped drinking. He sat down. "The back table observation skills are impressive," I said. "Occupational habit," he said. "You noticed what I was drinking from across a room of 340 people," I said. "I noticed you specifically from across a room of 340 people," he said, directly. I looked at him. He looked back. "Arjun," I said. "Yes," I said. I started. "Yes," he said, before I finished the sentence. "Not tonight," I said. "Tonight is complicated enough." "I know," he said. "Can I have your number?" I looked at him across the back table, in the warm, loud wedding room. "Yes," I said. He put his phone on the table. I typed in the number. He looked at it. "I'm going to text you tomorrow," he said. "Okay," I said. "Not just to be polite," he said. "I know," I said. He went back to the floor. The wedding continued. My sister danced with her husband. The family table was uncomplicated, and I sat at my back table in the warm room and thought about the specific way that the night had arrived at something entirely different from where it had started. Part 5, the morning after. He texted at 9 in the morning. Not a long text, just, "Good morning. The event went well. I wanted to make sure I texted before I convinced myself it was too early." I read it twice. Then I texted back, "Good morning. You could have texted at 8. I was already awake." He replied, "I'll remember that." We texted through the morning, the easy back and forth of 2 people who have found that the connection that existed before is still there, and that texting is sufficient proof of it. He was doing the post-event breakdown at the venue, the specific administrative morning that follows a large event. I was at home, the day after the wedding, in the specific quiet of the morning after a large family event when everyone has dispersed. My parents had called, my father briefly to check that I had gotten home, my mother longer with the careful warmth she deployed when she was trying to be both honest and not say too much. She had said, "The wedding was beautiful." She had said, "You were good last night, Rohan," and I had understood that she had noticed the back table and had not been able to do anything about it and was telling me she had noticed. I had said, "The food was excellent." She had almost laughed. We had talked for a few more minutes about the wedding and about Vikram and about Neha, and I had said the honest things, that I was glad she was happy, that the venue was beautiful, that I hoped they would be well. These things were all true. They were just not all the things. Arjun and I had texted until noon. At noon, he said, "I have meetings this afternoon. Can I call you this evening?" I had said, yes. He called at 7. We talked for an hour and a half. Part 6. The weeks. The weeks after the wedding were the weeks of finding out who someone is in the ordinary life, which is the real version. We had coffee on the first Tuesday, a place in Delhi that I had been going to for years and that he had known from university and that still existed, which felt like the kind of continuity that deserves acknowledgement. We had sat for 2 hours and talked in the full version, not the wedding context, not the compressed 20 minutes between venue obligations. The full version. He was someone who thought carefully about things. Not slow, his thinking was fast, but it arrived at real conclusions rather than performed ones. He had opinions about hospitality and about what it was for, which were the opinions of someone who had thought about the work rather than just done it. He believed that the best events, the ones that actually did what an event was supposed to do, were the ones where the people running them understood the emotional purpose of what they were hosting. A wedding was not a logistics problem. It was a specific important moment in specific important lives, and everything in the room had to serve that moment. Even the back table, I said. He looked at me. Even the back table, he said, which I want to say something about. Go ahead, I said. The back table placement was Neha's decision, he said. I don't know the full context and I'm not assuming I do, but I want you to know that when I walked across that room and saw you sitting there, something in the professional part of me felt wrong about it. The narrative wasn't right, I said. The brother of the bride at the back table, he said. Whatever the reason, it was a story that the room was telling that wasn't the story a wedding is supposed to tell. What story is a wedding supposed to tell? I said. That the people in it are loved, he said. All of them. I looked at my coffee. I was loved, I said, in the way that was available. I know, he said. I'm not criticizing her. I'm saying it wasn't right. No, I said, it wasn't. He was quiet for a moment. You said, the larger conversations are not tonight's, he said. Yes, I said. Are they a different nights? He said. Yes, I said. They're coming. Not from me, I'm not going to force a conversation that she's not ready for, but they're coming eventually. Because you deserve to be at the table, he said. I looked at him. Yes, I said, I do. He looked at me with the expression that had been present since he sat down in the empty chair at the back table, the expression of someone who was not managing their attention. Yes, he said, you do. The weeks continued. Coffee became dinners. Dinners became the easy habit of two people who have found a rhythm with each other and are following it with the specific pleasure of something that feels right. He introduced me to the venue properly, not as a wedding guest, but as a person he wanted me to see what he had built. He took me through the heritage property on a Tuesday morning when there were no events, just the property itself and its history and the specific decisions he had made about what it could be. He talked about the renovation, what had been preserved and why, what had been changed, and what those changes were trying to honor. I walked through the spaces with him and thought about the back table and what it had been, the table near the entrance to the garden, actually, in a space that was genuinely beautiful if you were paying attention to it, which I had been because I had nothing else to do. I thought about 743 and the man crossing the room and the 8 years and the notes I had lent every time he forgot his. I used to let you copy my notes because you were the only other person in that lecture who was actually thinking, I said. We were in the garden of the venue, the late afternoon light on the old stone walls. He turned to look at me. Is that why? He said. Yes, I said. I was being selfish. I wanted someone to argue with about what Maida was saying. We never argued, he said. We would have, I said, if there had been time. There's time now, he said. Yes, I said. We stood in the garden of the venue he ran, and the afternoon light was doing what afternoon light does on old stone, and neither of us was managing anything particularly carefully. Part 7, NEHA. My sister called in the second week after the wedding. She and Vikram were back from their honeymoon, 10 days in the Maldives, which I knew from my mother's updates. She called on a Wednesday evening, and I answered because I always answered. "How are you?" she said. "Good," I said. "How was the Maldives?" She told me about the Maldives. I listened. She had the specific warmth of someone who has just been very happy and is still in the warmth of it. Then she said, "The wedding was everything I wanted." "Yes," I said, "it was beautiful." "The venue was perfect," she said. "The venue was exceptional," I said, with a specific honesty she didn't yet know was specific. "Did you enjoy yourself?" she said, the question with the particular texture of someone who knows the answer might be complicated. "I enjoyed the food," I said, "and the champagne, and the dancing which I watched." Silence. "Rohan," she said. "Yes," I said. "The table," she said. "It's all right," I said. "It wasn't right," she said, and I heard in those 3 words something I had not expected, not defense, not justification, something more honest than either. "No," I said, "it wasn't." "I was afraid," she said, "of the conversation at the table, of the relatives asking questions, of managing it. I took the easy route." "I know," I said. "It wasn't fair to you," she said. "No," I said. She was quiet for a moment. "I'm trying," she said. "I need you to know that. It's not fast for me. I'm trying." "I know you're trying," I said. "Trying is real. I'm not asking for fast." "What are you asking for?" she said. I thought about it. "To be at the table eventually," I said. "Not the back table, the real one when you're ready." She was quiet for a long moment. "I want that too," she said, quietly, the most honest thing she had said in years. "Okay," I said. "Okay," she said. We talked for a while longer. Nothing resolved and everything slightly different. The beginning of something that would take time. After I hung up, I sat in my apartment and understood that the conversation had been worth having, and that the table was the right metaphor, and that the process was real and would continue. Then I texted Arjun. My sister called. He replied in 4 minutes. "How was it?" "Real," I said. She said it wasn't right. "She's correct," he said. "How do you feel?" "Like something moved," I said. "Not resolved, moved." "That's the right word for it," he said. Part 8, the complication. Here is the part that required honesty. In the 4th week after the wedding, something happened that I had not anticipated. One of my closest friends, a man named Siddharth who had known me for 6 years, and who occupied the specific position of the person you can say anything to, had come to dinner. We had been at a restaurant in Delhi, and I had been talking about Arjun and the weeks and the coffee and the garden and the afternoon light on the stone walls. Siddharth had listened to all of it. He was a good listener, the kind who actually processes what you are saying rather than waiting for their turn to speak. At the end, he had said, "What does he know?" I had looked at him. "About the wedding," Siddharth said. "About the back table, about Neha, about all of it." I had thought about it. "He understood the back table without me explaining it," I said. "He understood what uncomplicated meant." "And the rest," Siddharth said. I had been quiet. "I haven't told him the full version," I said. "Why not?" Siddharth said. "I thought about that too." "Because we're 4 weeks in," I said. "Because the full version is a lot." "Is it too much?" Siddharth said. "No," I said immediately. "No, it's not too much." "Then," he said. "I'm afraid," I said, "that the full version changes how he sees me." Siddharth looked at me. "Rohan," he said. "I know," I said. "You're doing the back table thing," he said. "Inside your own head. You're putting yourself at the back table before he's had the chance to put you anywhere." I sat with that. "It's reflex," I said. "After long enough, you just pre-manage yourself down," he said. "Yes, I've watched you do it for 6 years. I looked at my food. The full version, Siddharth said, is the version he's already being given 4 weeks of evidence for. The full version is not going to be a surprise. He saw me at a wedding back table, I said. And walked across the room anyway, Siddharth said, and sat down and came back twice and texted at 9 the next morning. I was quiet. Tell him, Siddharth said. The whole version, let him have the whole version. Part 9, the conversation. I called Arjun the next evening. I told him I wanted to say something properly. He said okay. We met at his place. He had an apartment in Gurgaon near the venue, a place that was organized with the specific orderliness of someone who managed complex events for a living and who brought that organizational quality home. There were good books. The kitchen was functional and used. The space felt like someone lived in it honestly. We sat at his kitchen table, and I told him. The full version, not the wedding and the back table, he knew that. The full version, which was who I was, what the family dynamic had always been, the specific labor of being present but separate, the things I had not said at family tables for 31 years, and the things that had been said around me, and the particular texture of being loved in the way that was available rather than the way that was right. He listened with the complete attention he had given me on the night of the wedding, and every conversation since. When I finished, he said nothing for a moment. Then he said, "You've been at the back table for a long time." "Yes," I said. "In the family context," he said, "and in other contexts," I said. "Yes, it becomes a reflex." "I know," he said. "You know," I said. He looked at the table. "My family is in Kerala," he said. "I moved to Bangalore at 22 and I've been moving since. I tell my parents I work in events. I tell them the venue is doing well. I don't tell them things that would produce the specific conversation that I don't want to have over a phone call to Kerala." He paused. "I've been managing distance for 10 years. It's not the same as your situation, but it's the same reflex." I looked at him. "You've never told them," I said. "Not fully," he said. "Not clearly." "Are you afraid?" I said. "Yes," he said, "and also tired of being afraid." We sat at his kitchen table in Gurgaon, and the full versions of both of us were in the room for the first time, and neither of us was performing anything. "You walked across a wedding room," I said, "toward the back table." "Yes," he said. "Why?" I said. "You could have just noted that you recognized someone and kept working." He looked at me. "Because you were sitting at the back table of your sister's wedding like it was the correct arrangement," he said. "Like you had accepted it, and I have spent 10 years accepting incorrect arrangements, and something in me refused to let you do that for 1 more hour without someone walking across the room." I looked at him. "Someone," I said. "Me," he said, "specifically me." The kitchen was quiet. Gurgaon was doing its night things outside the window. "I'm not at the back table here," I said. "No," he said, "you're not." "I need to remember that," I said. "I'll remind you," he said. Part 10, the distance. Here is what went wrong. 3 weeks after the kitchen table conversation, there was an event at his venue, a corporate event, large, the kind that requires the full professional attention of everyone on the floor. I had been at the venue for a meeting with a client whose event was being planned there, a corporate narrative event that I was the communications lead on, and that had been booked at Arjun's venue before I had known it was his venue. The overlap was unexpected. I had not told him about the client meeting because I had not connected the dots until I was already in the building. He had not known I was coming because I had not known he was the venue. We had seen each other in the corridor outside the event planning suite. He had been in full professional mode. The client he was managing was present. His team was around him. The specific high-pressure orchestration of a large corporate event preparation was happening around him. He had seen me. He had registered me. He had nodded briefly and continued with his work. I had gone into my meeting. After the meeting, I had looked for him. He had been deep in the floor preparations and unreachable in the way of someone who is managing an active event. I had left a text. I didn't know this was your venue until I got here. Sorry for the surprise. He had replied 4 hours later. No problem, I'll call later. He had not called that evening. He had texted the next morning. Big day yesterday. Can we talk this week? Something in the text was different. Not cold, careful. I had recognized careful. I had been careful for 31 years. I knew what it felt like from the inside and from the outside. I had said, is everything okay? He had said, yes, just needed a day. I had said, okay. I had put my phone down, and I had understood that something had shifted, and I did not fully know what. I called Siddharth. Tell me what happened, Siddharth said. I told him about the venue, the corridor, the brief nod, the careful text. What do you think happened? Siddharth said. I don't know, I said. It felt like he put you at the back table, Siddharth said. I was quiet for a moment. Yes, I said. That's exactly what it felt like. So ask him, Siddharth said. It might be nothing, I said. It might just be a big work day. Rohan, Siddharth said. Yes, I said. Stop accepting arrangements that feel wrong, he said. That's what you told your sister, that you deserve to be at the table. Apply it. I sat with that. Yes, I said. Ask him, Siddharth said. Yes, I said. Part 11. What ARJUN said. I went to the venue on a Thursday morning. He was in his office, the small office behind the event management suite, the one I had been in once before. He looked up when I came in. Rohan, he said. I'm going to ask you something directly, I said, and I need you to answer directly. He was quiet. The corridor, I said. The day of the corporate event, something changed. I felt it in the text. I want to know what it was. He looked at his desk. It wasn't about you, he said. What was it about? I said. He was quiet for a long moment. Your client, he said, the one you were meeting with. I waited. He was at my venue 3 weeks ago for a separate meeting, Arjun said. He said something to my events manager, about me, about information he had about me or thought he had. My events manager told me. He paused. He knows people in common with people from my previous work in Bangalore. The world is not large enough sometimes. I understood. He said something homophobic, I said. He implied something, Arjun said, to someone on my team, in the context of doing business with this venue. I was very still. And then you saw me in the corridor, I said, coming out of a meeting with him. Yes, he said. You thought I started. I didn't think anything specific, he said. I just needed a day to understand what I was feeling. What were you feeling? I said. He looked at me. Like the world was small in the wrong way, he said. Like I had been careful for 10 years and had started being less careful and the world had noticed. Arjun, I said. I'm not accusing you of anything, he said. I know you didn't know. I know the client meeting was separate from us. I'm dropping the client, I said. He looked at me. You don't have to, he started. I'm not asking for your permission, I said. I'm telling you what I'm doing. That person said something about you that was wrong and small, and I am not going to continue a professional relationship with someone who does that. He was quiet. The professional cost, he said, is real and is manageable, I said. It's not a comparison. He looked at me for a long moment. You put yourself at the back table, I said. This week, you put yourself there because someone who doesn't know you implied something and you pre-accepted the implication. I know, he said. I've done that my whole life, I said. I know what it looks like from the inside and from the outside. You're doing it. Yes, he said. You walked across a wedding room, I said. For me, at the back table, because incorrect arrangements should be refused. He looked at me. Yes, he said. Same rule, I said. He was quiet for a long moment. Same rule, he said. I sat down in the chair across from his desk. Tell me about Kerala, I said. The full version. He looked at me. Now, he said. Yes, I said. Now. And he told me. Part 12, the table. 6 months after the wedding. I want to tell you what the 6 months looked like, because the looking at them is the whole point. Arjun and I had built something, not dramatically, not in a single moment, but in the accumulation of Tuesday coffees and Thursday dinners and Saturday mornings, when neither of us was working, and the city was quieter than usual. We had built something in the full versions of both of us that we had given each other. The Kerala family that he had started to have more honest conversations with, slowly, and with the specific patience that those conversations require, and the Delhi family that I was navigating toward the real table that I deserved. My sister had called 6 times in 6 months, each call slightly longer than the one before, each one slightly more honest. We were not where we were going to get to, we were on the road. The road was real. In month 4, she had come to Delhi for a day trip. She had met me for lunch, just the two of us. The first lunch that had been just us in years, deliberately arranged, chosen. She had said, I want to meet Arjun. I had looked at her. Not for a big occasion, she said. Just a lunch, the 3 of us. You're sure, I said. I'm trying, she said. This is the trying. I had said, okay. The lunch had been at a restaurant in Delhi, neutral ground, the right size, the right noise level for a conversation that needed some cover, but not too much. Arjun had come with the easy warmth he brought to new situations, without performing anything. Neha had come with the specific, careful warmth of someone who is doing something difficult and is doing it anyway. They had talked about the venue. She had been happy with the wedding and had things to say about it, the details that a bride remembers years later, the specific moments that the venue had handled exactly right. Arjun had listened with the genuine interest of someone who cares about how the events he manages land for the people they belong to. At some point, the conversation had moved to other things, to Vikram and how the first months of marriage were going, to Arjun's family in Kerala and the trips he made there, to my work and the project I was working on. An ordinary lunch, a real one. At the end, walking out, Neha had found a moment to stand beside me while Arjun was ahead of us. He's good, she said quietly. Yes, I said. He looks at you, she said, the way Vikram looks at me. I looked at her. Yes, I said. She was quiet for a moment. I'm working on it, she said. The table, the real one, I'm not there yet, but I'm working on it. I know, I said. She squeezed my arm once, brief, the specific gesture of someone who is saying something they cannot yet say in words, and we walked out into the Delhi afternoon. My grandmother, who had trusted me with her land, had written, "You are the only one in this family who looks at things completely." My grandmother had been right, and the looking completely was what had always made me the uncomplicated problem at certain tables. The looking completely was what made me difficult to manage. The looking completely was not something I was going to stop doing. The back table had been wrong. I had been wrong to accept it without argument. And a man in a dark suit had walked across a room at 7:43 on a Wednesday evening and sat down in an empty chair and said, "You lent me your notes every single time, and something that had been filed for 8 years had been refiled in an entirely different drawer. The table is real. The conversation with Neha is ongoing. The Kerala conversations are ongoing. The full version of both of us is present in every room we share." And on a Saturday morning in October, at a small place in Delhi where the coffee is correct and the corner table is ours, Arjun puts his phone down and says, "My parents are coming to Delhi in December." I look at him. "Both of them," I say. "Both of them," he says. I look at my coffee. "That's something," I say. "Yes," he says. "I thought you should know." "Are you ready?" I say. He looks at me across the table. "No," he says, "but I'm going to do it anyway." "Yes," I say, "you are." Because incorrect arrangements should be refused. And the right table is always worth walking across the room for. Clapperboard final hook. She told me 3 days before her wedding that the family table would be uncomplicated. I said okay. I sat at the back table. I drank the good champagne. I watched the room. And at 7:43, a man in a dark suit walked across 340 people toward me and sat down in the empty chair and said, "You lent me your notes every single time." 8 years. The back table turned out to be the best seat in the room. Not because it was right, because it was where he found me. Neha called me 6 times in 6 months. The calls are getting more honest. The table she is working toward is the real one. The working is real and I am not rushing it. Arjun's parents are coming to Delhi in December. He is not ready, and he is going to do it anyway. And I am going to be in the room when he does it. Not at the back table. At the table that matters. Because incorrect arrangements should be refused. Because you deserve to be seen. Because some people walk across rooms. And when they do, you let them sit down. If this story found something you needed, if you have ever been seated away from the table you deserved, like it, share it with someone who is still accepting the back table, and subscribe. Tell me in the comments, has someone ever walked across a room toward you when they didn't have to? And one last question. December comes, Arjun's parents arrive in Delhi. The dinner is planned. I know about the dinner. Arjun has not asked me to be there, not yet, but the week before the dinner he calls me and says something I did not expect him to say. Something that changes what December becomes. Should I tell you what he said? Part 2 is coming. Eyes. Subscribe. You will not want to miss it.